Hello everyone, my name is Jake, and I'm back today with a DeckTech. Today I'll be reviewing Abuelo Ancestral Echo. Abuelo is a 2/2 for a colorless blue and a white. He has flying and ward 2 with an activated ability that states, exile another target creature or artifact you control and return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I really like this commander because of its flexibility to give you more freedom to use powerful ETBs across your opponent's turns. The only downside to it being that it needs a good amount of mana. But the good thing is this is a control deck, so you're planning on going into the late game anyways. So now the category that'll help you get into the late game, we have Ramp. First off, we have Core Cartographer and Solemn Simulacrum. These are two fantastic creatures with ETBs that can really put you ahead on mana compared to your opponents. Because not only when they enter the battlefield, when you cast them, you can also use your commander's abilities to flicker them and get even more lands onto the battlefield. Along with those two, you have your typical mana rocks, your Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Talisman of Progress, and your Azorius Signet. Now, a pretty important category is removal. This deck is running 4 board wipes because, I'm a degenerate. I don't like making the game fun for my opponents. Your Azorius board wipes include Supreme Verdict and Time Wipe. Fantastic board wipes. Supreme Verdict cannot be countered. Time Wipe lets you return your commander or an important creature that you have back to your hand and destroys everything else. Then we have arguably the 2 best board wipes in the game of Magic, and that's Austere Command and Farewell. Austere Command gives you the flexibility to destroy either all creatures, a certain number of creatures in artifacts or enchantments, vice versa, whatever you want. And Farewell just gives you the option to exile absolutely everything. Moving on, we have Permanent Removal. And from Mutineer, fantastic creature removal when it ETBs, and it gives them salamanders, which is hilarious. Moving on, we have Lorna the Third Path. This is pretty good because on ETB, it can get rid of these pesky artifacts or enchantments that might be either slowing the game down, making it harder for you to play. And in a time of need, you can draw a card along with an opponent. Meteor Golem, Spine of Ishsaw. These are great because Meteor Golem can hit any non-land permanent. It's also a creature, just in case you need a blocker. Spine of Ishsaw is really good. It doesn't say non-land. You can use Spine of Ishsaw to destroy an Urborg or a Cabal Coffers or a Valakut. I just like to have a lot of flexibility in my decks. For certain scenarios, I'll have an answer for it. Even if I only have one answer in my whole deck, I know what I have to get. Some cards in the deck that are similar to your commander, obviously Brago, who has been one of the most popular Azorius commanders when it comes to Flicker. When he deals combat damage, you can exile any number of non-land permanents you control, and that's not until the end of turn. You flicker them immediately. You can do your whole board if you have a whole board of creatures and artifacts with ETBs. Yorion, why I like Yorion a little bit more than Brago in this deck, is because Yorion's ability is an ETB. You can really maximize this ability with your commander by flickering Yorion, because Yorion lets you pick any number of non-land permanents you control. Cloud Shift and Ephemerate are really important cards in this deck because it gives you that ability to, let's say somebody targets one of your things, you destroy, exile, whatever it may be, you can use these to save your permanents. Or if somebody's going to swing at you with a 20/20 ridiculous whatever, you can really flicker your Meteor Golem or something that removal spell can save you. And then last but not least, we have Teleportation Circle. Your high synergy card board includes obviously Soul Herder. This creature is like a flicker all-star because it gets bigger when you exile, when you flicker a creature. And it also, at the end of your turn, flickers something else. Now, Aether Channeler and Charming Prince, I love these additions just because of the toolbox aspect to them. The last thing I decided to include in this category is Peregrine Drake and Training Grounds. Peregrine Drake on ETB untaps up to 5 lands. That is at least one Abuelo activation on your opponent's turns, and with a Training Grounds out, Peregrine Drake will give you 2 activations. Now, the fun category. I kind of have this category for all my decks. This category is really meant to be the reason why I built the deck. So the cards in here I really wanted to use. Starting off with Elesh Norn, this is just disgusting creature. Not only is it a 4/7 with Vigilance with a massive booty, it doubles down on your ETBs and completely shuts off the ETBs of your opponents. Next, we have obviously Ancient of Treachery. Fantastic piece of cardboard in this deck because on ETB it takes a creature. And you can really abuse that with the commander, obviously. Coveted Jewel. This is such a great Magic card. And in this deck, we can completely break it. On ETB, it draws you 3 cards and also taps for 3 mana. So if you have 3 islands untapped, A, it will scare your opponents. 2, you can keep flickering Coveted Jewel and tap the 3 for white. You can potentially draw 3 cards per opponent's turn. Next, we have Diluvian Primordial. This is a great creature on ETB. You can take an instant and sorcery from each of your opponents. This, where it could be a ramp spell to get you further into the game, a reanimate to take a powerful creature from a graveyard, a board wipe, just in case if you don't have any in your hand. This realistically can be anything, which is what I really like about it. Next, we have Mirror Battlesphere. Realistically, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to put it in this deck just to try it out. Because usually I would prefer a Regal Caracal, which I really like because it's in my Alice Norman deck. And it makes 2 cats with lifelink that are basically 2/2s with Regal out. And that I prefer over 4 1/1 mirrors, because Regal Caracal costs less and those cats can gain you life. But it's completely up to you if you prefer more bodies or bigger bodies. Finally, I have Fiend Hunter. I can't believe this card left the Wizards of the Coast printing facility with 2 different abilities instead of merging the abilities all together. Let me break it down for you. This is what you should do with this card to exile something for free. When Fiend Hunter enters the battlefield, its ETB will go on the stack. Before that ETB resolves, flicker it with whether it be a Cloud Shift, Ephemerate, or even your commander's ability. With the ability of the spell going off, that's going to flicker Fiend Hunter, the LTB will go on the stack before the ETB, which means the leave the battlefield trigger is going to resolve before the enter the battlefield trigger. And since nothing was ever exiled with Fiend Hunter, that LTB will fizzle, which will then move on as you're resolving the stack. The ETB will trigger and then exile something for free. This is a very niche combo that can really catch your opponents off guard. Some of the maybe cards I've included in this is Thassa Deep Dwelling. It really depends. I have cards that flicker in the deck, but it really, if you want an indestructible blocker, you can include this. I prefer the things I have in the deck, but it's really up to you. You're the one building your own deck. So next we have the Might Stone and the Weak Stone. This is good because it enters the battlefield, give any creature -5/5, and it can also draw you cards. Now we have Panharmonicon. Then again, it depends on really what you want, because you can take something else out and include this, really double down on ETBs. But I just went with an Elish Norn because Elish Norn is miles better than Panharmonicon. Now, depending on your budget, if you have a little bit higher budget than others, some great additions is Palinchron and Great Whale. These cards are ETB second untap 7 lands, which can really help you late game, which provides for more flexibility on your opponent's turns to activate your commander's ability. The Sword of Feast and Famine, like, you'll never have a moment where you play this card and the entire table doesn't groan that it's on the battlefield, but it can buff your commander or any creature you have, and it will untap all your lands when they deal combat damage. Like, it's so annoying, bro. With this equipment, you can really maximize your turns without worrying about wasting resources. Last but not least, we have in this category, it's Solitude. Exile something on ETB, exile a creature on ETB, and with its evoke cost, it can be done at instant speed. Or if you regularly cast Solitude for its 4 mana, you can reuse its ETB with your commander. But to recap, Abuelo can be a very fun budget deck in a low power level setting. If you're looking for a more powerful flicker deck, Brago might be what you're looking for. Nonetheless, it's just Abuelo's flexibility to really provide for his artifacts and creatures, because he takes care of everyone. Other than that, thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or suggestions, I would really love to hear them. And of course, always remember, you can always control your opponents, but not your card shop spending habits.